Hey everybody, Ryan here, coming back at you with another video. It's been a while since I've done a Bond video, and I know I said I was going to make a series out of it, and sometimes my mouth gets ahead of me, and I lose interest or inspiration in doing the rest of the series sometimes. And I wasn't going to let the Bond video go. Me and Luke, Razor Wire Reviews here on YouTube, have been talking back and forth. We've been going through all these Bond films together, and we decided that we wanted to do this series together, and I thought it'd be awesome to do it. So I have him coming in through Skype audio, and what started this was I started watching the Bond movies, and then we were talking about Skyfall and stuff, and he started watching them, and we were just talking a lot about the films in general, and it turned into, hey, are you watching this movie yet? Yeah, I'm watching it right now. That like we were having conversations every single day as we were watching all these movies, and just thought it'd be a good idea to actually kind of come together about that and talk about it. Um, the only thing is that it's been since Skyfall since we really went through all these movies, and so they're not as fresh as they were the day we watched them. But it'll still be fun to talk about and kind of give our insight, into the movie. And I have Luke here. Luke, how are you doing?
Not too bad. Very glad to be doing this. It's been a long time in the making.
It has, and I'm finally glad that we got around to doing it. You live in England, right, or Wales, right?
Wales, yeah.
Yeah, he lives in Wales, and so I live in the United States, and so there's about 5 hours difference. And our work schedule has been crazy, you know, and so in order to, make a video, I would either have to wake up at like 5 in the morning or wait until, he gets home and where he's at from work, and I'm still at work, and it's just sometimes just never worked out. And so finally we got it's a New Year's Eve right now, and so figured my my New Year's resolution is to finish this series like I promised. So um, we'll go ahead and start with the first Bond film, which I've already done in a video, but since I'm now doing the series with Luke, we're just kind of start from the beginning. And so this is Doctor No. It's the first Bond film, and um, you know he's kind of called to the movie's about he's kind of called to Jamaica and around that area to investigate the disappearance of another operative down in Jamaica. And along the ways, he's investigating, and he ends up at different locations and like different characters, and it has to do with the space program. I don't want to give away any spoilers, but I really like this movie. It was so long before I actually saw this movie for the first time. It was probably 5 or 6 years after I started getting really obsessed with Bond films when I was a kid. I just didn't have any money when I was a kid or a job to buy Doctor No, and finally I got it and I loved it. If Luke if you want to give your reaction to this wonderful film.
Yeah, I saw it when I was quite young, actually, many years ago. So it was kind of when I watched it again this time round, it was kind of familiar, but still kind of a bit new at the same time. Yeah, I love it as well. I think it's great, and it's if you look at it in comparison to like the later Bond films, it's quite a smaller affair. Like it's quite contained in one place and that kind of thing. And I actually enjoy that about it. It was really cool.
And the cool thing is though is like in this film, Bond is like not really I mean he's that charming Bond, but he is like still kind of a brutal guy at the same time. Like we're so used to Bond, being the way he is in pop culture and stuff now. But if you watch this film, like I mean he's a womanizer. The first instance, like the first time he's actually around a woman at the beginning of the movie, they like just met and she shows up in his room, and he's with her, and right off the bat he kills somebody pretty I mean and or he fights somebody and they kill themselves. I mean, so it starts out pretty, while it's a pretty light movie, the character of James Bond is still kind of a you know a brutal kind of a guy. And I love this film because, in my opinion, it has Ursula Andress, who I think is the best Bond girl, or should I say the best looking Bond girl. And I'm gonna go ahead and leave it at that. But Luke, if you have anything to add on to what I said.
Yeah, she's not my favorite Bond girl. I can see what you, I can see what you're saying though. But I loved like little things like because obviously the Bond franchise wasn't like a huge blockbuster thing when it first started here, and so there's not these big action sequences, but you get like the smaller sequences that are really cool. Like when he gets his hotel room and he's like checking things, like he puts like a bit of hair on something or something like that. What was that?
Yeah, I think it was a closet door.
Yeah, so like just little like kind of cool things like that. The scene where he's waiting in that bedroom with his gun for the guy to show up, you know. Just some really cool scenes, and yeah, the whole kind of ending kind of I think set a standard for future Bond films, like the you know the bad guy with the big glare and you know laboratory and all that kind of thing. I think it's great, love it.
Yeah, and with that, we're gonna go ahead and jump on to the next one. It's going to be From Russia with Love. It came out in I have a hard time remembering these dates. And it's
63.
Yeah, 63. And I'll say right off the bat, for a long time, this was my favorite Bond film. And what it's about is you know, it kind of starts off as um, sometimes I just get lost with my words, but you know, Bond is actually. Do you know? Can you explain the plot? Sometimes I just have a problem explaining.
It has been a while. It has been a while. I can't. Oh, it's about the is it the Lecter machine? There's some kind of machine um, that Bond needs to retrieve. It's something like that.
Yeah, like, but the thing is that they're trying to retrieve this Lecter, and he has to go be with like a Russian agent to get the Lecter, and then the Russian agent has to go be with him to try to get the Lecter. Meanwhile, um, you know, Spectre is actually in charge of the scheme to trick both governments into retrieving this for their own use, and they know the British
Yeah.
Secret Service wants it. But the twist is that it's kind of a it's like From Russia with Love. It sounds like a letter, like somebody's writing a letter. It has like it's kind of a romance between him and her, but
Yeah.
it has a really great to me a really great story. I personally love the movie from beginning to end. It wasn't until recently when I realized that the beginning of the movie is nothing compared to the last half of the movie, and it really wasn't until I started talking to Luke that I realized, like when I watched it again, that it does, in my opinion, now that I'm older, it lags in certain parts, but once it hits a certain point, it just goes on, and I mean, I really liked it a lot. And so, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. I thought it was a bit slow to start off with, but when they get onto the train, is it the Orient Express?
Yeah,
Yeah. When they get onto the train, I just started loving it then. But then I love like train sequences in films in general. But it was really cool, and the bad guy or the kind of the henchman, you know, like the kind of Terminator kind of guy.
Robert Shaw.
Yeah, he was really cool, and I love that fight they had on the train and all that, and then it just kind of just got bigger and bigger, like when he's up in the mountains and stuff and getting chased by that helicopter. Some really exciting scenes.
Yeah,
So yeah, I would agree with you. The second half of the film is a lot better than the first. I know a lot of people consider it to be like the best James Bond film, and it's certainly a classic. But it's not my favorite Bond film, and it's not my favorite Connery film either.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think the reason why I loved it so much is because maybe I just started getting kind of bored with the first half just because I'd seen it so many times. Like it really wasn't as intriguing to me. But I don't know. I'll never understand it, but it'll always be one of my favorites just because I watched it for so long.
Yeah,
But
of course.
the next film is Goldfinger. Came out in 1964, and I do have to say this is probably I'm gonna hold off on saying which ones are my favorite, which ones not. But this is definitely one of my favorites, and it's actually a pretty simple plot. Bond is sent to investigate a man named I think Eric or a man named Goldfinger, and he's in charge of all this. He has this obsession with gold, and he's sent to investigate him. And I forgot what the motives were investigating him. Do you remember what like the motives were why he was sent? I always forget those little things.
Yeah, I really can't remember. I mean,
Yeah.
once you've watched like 20 films, it does get a little tough.
Well, the thing is that like it didn't really have a motive. He just kind of the title sequence, and all of a sudden he was in Miami, and he's with a woman giving him a massage, and Felix Leiter shows up at the pool, and he's like, hey, how you doing, Sean Connery? Blah blah blah. By the way, that big guy sitting in that chair over there is Goldfinger, and then the movie starts. And so, I mean,
Yeah.
but you know, Bond investigates him and realizes that there's this huge scheme going on that he wants to, take out Fort Knox, and it's a really simple plot. But the thing is, it was like a really awesome Bond film. I loved it. And it was one of the first Connery films I ever saw, and I loved it from the start, from the beginning to the end. Odd Job, great villain, steel rimmed hat. Maybe one day I could buy one of those. But I guess it was the first Bond movie to really get heavy into advertising and having merchandise. I guess like
Yeah.
the Aston Martin, everybody was obsessed with it. I'm still obsessed with it, and it was just such a great film, and I loved it. And I think this is the Bond film that really started giving, when Bond really started getting into pop culture. And so, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely, I agree. I mean, it was the first kind of blockbuster Bond film, and it really shows because there's some really cool sequences in it. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Really, it was just awesome. I love that we get to see like the main villain of the film really early on, and we see a lot of him as well. So we really got to kind of you know spend time with the Goldfinger character, and I loved all that stuff where he's kind of like keeping Bond hostage, but kind of letting him walk around and stuff. So it seems like he's not really keeping him hostage, but he is at the same time. There's kind of like he's got a bit of power over him and stuff. And you're trying to figure out what Bond's going to do to get out of it and stop the whole plot.
Yeah.
Of course, we've got Pussy Galore as well, just like a classic Bond girl name. Um, and it's just, the whole film just full of like classic Bond scenes. I absolutely loved it. Our Job as well, classic henchman. Um, yeah, awesome. Definitely one of my favorites.
I must be dreaming. I mean, this film is what pretty. I mean, there were some little innuendos like in the earlier films, but like the humor, Bond's dry, like I guess you could say sexual humor really started like full force in this film, and I mean it just added some comedy to it. I think without it, it might be. I mean, I don't know. I just think that it adds a great thing to these films, having the little comic relief every once in a while. Bond's, in an airplane hostage, you think, and he says something ridiculous like, "Oh, I must be dreaming," after hearing that her name's Pussy Galore. I mean, it's just classic stuff. All right.
Well,
Then,
I think that I love the relationship between Bond and Pussy Galore. Well, not the relationship, but the chemistry. I think
yeah.
it was just a lot more fun than the past two Bond girls. Um, she's kind of like resisting him and stuff, and she's quite a tough woman. And so yeah, I enjoyed that a lot.
And she's a lot stronger. She wasn't like some woman that he could just the Russian girl from Russia with Love always seemed kind of whiny to me. Like she was just kind of a wimp. But I
Yeah,
like
I
Pussy
agree.
Galore because she was really kind of a strong woman, and having Bond being such a strong guy, like having that chemistry that you're not really sure if she likes him or not, that kind of a thing. It really went well, and that's I mean, like you said,
Yeah,
it was
you have
awesome.
to work together.
Yeah. Um, the next film is the one that I've changed opinions on so many times, and um, that is Thunderball. It was released I think it was a year later, in 1965. Um, this one actually has a pretty complex plot in a way. Like, there's you know, nuclear missiles that were stolen, and he's sent to the. I mean, I'm saying that he's sent to these places, but he investigates and it leads him to these places, like down into the Caribbean, like Nassau and stuff, to try to investigate. And he's investigating who is it? Somebody else, Inspector Largo, and basically the story is he's trying to prevent a nuclear holocaust. But I'm gonna go ahead and let you say your opinion of this film before I say anything.
Okay. I I think it's a really good film. I enjoy the location a lot, and you know, to me, it felt like a lot of the underwater scenes were overdone. Like it was like, hey, we can do these really cool underwater scenes. Let's do lots of them. And I'd get quite bored because it would go on for minutes and minutes. There's no dialogue, and but a lot of it I did enjoy. I just thought maybe the whole film was a bit too long, and the underwater scenes were done too much. But I liked it. I liked the plot. The plot was cool. I love the scene where he's dancing with that girl, and she gets shot,
Yeah.
and he puts her down. I think what he says is something like, "Oh, she's dead" or something like that.
Yeah. Somebody
Really
says
good.
what's wrong with her, and he goes, "Oh, it's okay, she's dead," or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, as if like she's tired.
Yeah. And yeah. Um, you know, I actually hated hated this film for so long. I couldn't get through the first 20 minutes when I was a kid. I just thought the beginning was so long, and like what you said about the underwater scenes, I couldn't stand them. I thought they were so long. And the thing is about underwater scenes is that, um, you know, if you're running underwater, it really only looks like you're walking because you're going slower as you're underwater. So there's all these action sequences underwater that are extremely slow.
Yeah,
Something that might take 5 seconds, like a bomb exploding and somebody running to try to dismantle the bomb, takes 10 seconds, in any other situation. But in this movie, it took like 30 minutes just for that. And so growing up, I could not stand this movie
yeah,
until me and you were going through these films, and I was like, all right, I gotta give Thunderball another shot because I'm gonna need to give Luke some actual opinions, not some stupid opinion, childish opinion about this movie. Like, oh, I can't get into it because it's too slow. Yeah, and I mean, because we're on YouTube because we love movies, and I don't want to sound like an idiot to a fellow movie lover over in England, and so I watched it, and um, I actually like it a lot more. And I don't know if it's my favorite, but it would definitely be in my top 10. Basically for the story and stuff. But the thing is, I still have those two complaints about. I think the movie takes way too long to get started. I mean,
yeah,
that hospital scene at the beginning when he's at the hospital. I mean, they could have easily cut that time in half. Realize that the person next door was actually this person. Blah blah blah. There was that little fun that he had with the girl, which was normal for a Bond film. But I think they could have cut that in half and then cut the underwater scenes in half. And I mean, didn't the movie? Let me see. Isn't it like it was the longest Bond film I think up until that point? I mean, it was like 2 hours and 10 minutes, but really it could have been a really good Bond film at like an hour and 40 minutes.
definitely.
And so, and I think that actually I just looked at the wrong movie when I looked at the time. I looked at Goldfinger. This film was
No,
actually
it's the same.
okay. Yeah, it's about the same. And so I don't know. I think when it came out too, it was like I think it had the same kind of promotion that like The Dark Knight had, or no, like The Dark Knight Rises. Goldfinger was like The Dark Knight, the critically acclaimed Bond film, merchandise. Everybody loved it. The villain was great. Everybody went and saw it. Broke. Everybody went and saw Goldfinger. Um, everybody went and saw Goldeneye too, but we're not on that yet. But Goldfinger. And so where were they gonna go with the next film? And so I think everybody flocked. And Thunderball, I keep looking at the wrong movie. Thunderball actually broke records too because everybody went out and saw it. But if you look
Yeah,
at the critics' reviews and stuff, it really kind of got mixed reviews, mainly because they think that the movie took too long to get started and the water sequences, which still sometimes I just get bored thinking about them.
yeah. I think they're well done. You know,
Yeah,
I always appreciate things that I look at and think, wow, that scene must have been hard to shoot and stuff, and because I always think like that. But yeah, just I find myself getting quite bored at times.
but I don't know. It's just and it ended up. I'm surprised I ended up liking it. And I know it sounds like I was actually completely negative about it just now, and then for me to say that it was like probably one of my favorite ones out of the Connery ones, it's
Yeah.
kind of, but the thing is that it is a great film, or it is a really good film. It just suffers from um, pacing, like most movies do sometimes, and so just the older I get, I guess the more I could look over that.
Yeah.
But
I like the Bond girl in the film, Domino. She didn't have too much depth to her, but she wasn't bad to look at. And I liked how her name was Domino, and she dressed in black and white most of the time.
yeah,
That was a cool little thing I liked.
yeah, she was a really good character, and I think it's not until like halfway, half the movie's over when she finally pops into the movie. I think
Yeah.
I'm not sure, I forgot, but I thought she was great, and um, yeah, she was great, and she wasn't bad looking either. All
I
right,
like the ending with the skyhook as well. It just launched him off.
yeah,
That was cool.
all right. The next film is You Only Live Twice. Sorry for the footage or for the lighting in here now. It's like I said, it's New Year's Eve, and it is 5ish in the afternoon. And since I started this video, the sun is starting to go down, so the video is actually getting a slight darker, but it's fine. But sorry for the lighting, everybody. But then again, this is YouTube. We're not in Hollywood. Um, so You Only Live Twice. Um, I always really, really enjoyed this film because of the fact that um, I really love the James Bond novels, and I read You Only Live Twice was the first Bond novel I ever read, and I loved it. And I saw the film, and I was like, cool, Bond dies at the beginning, goes undercover, or should I say fake dies, fake dies. That's done in a lot of movies now, but I think it's because of this awesome movie. But You Only Live Twice is about Bond going undercover once again. Everybody thinks he's dead. He's going undercover to find. I just get all these plots mixed up. I'm trying to read the back of the box as I'm. Um, oh well, this is the one where Blofeld keeps getting all these spaceships like space shuttles,
Yeah.
and everybody's like, what the heck's going on? And isn't it who is it? The United States or all these world governments say if another space shuttle disappears, we're going to war. And he goes to investigate and realizes that Blofeld is trying to get another one, and but he doesn't know it's Blofeld yet. He just knows that somebody's trying to get it. And I thought it was a pretty good film. When I first saw it, I actually don't really. I don't know. Maybe I really like it, but I don't like it as much as I used to. I don't know. Maybe it's because I watched it so much, and I like the book better. Maybe that's the problem. But I think it's really funny how yeah. Actually, I'll let you talk about your opinion of the movie first before I talk about anything else.
Okay, I absolutely loved it. I never realized that there was a Bond film set in Japan, and I'm a big fan of like all things Japanese and stuff. So it was a real treat for me to see that. And yeah, just seeing Bond in Japan was really cool. And we get to sort of see some kind of different interactions with Japanese people, Japanese henchmen, stuff like that. Um, and Blofeld, who had kind of been kind of teased in other films and stuff, we finally get to see him. The classic version of him with the scar and stuff, and the white cap. And I love that whole ending sequence of the film. There's just this huge kind of fight in this big lair, or whatever you want to call it, underneath the kind of the volcano. And I wasn't too hot on all the stuff where he kind of marries the Japanese girl and gets his eyebrows done really weird. That was a bit strange, but I really enjoyed it. I love the theme song as well, and I enjoyed it a lot. There's a cool scene actually where he's getting chased and he kind of jumps off a level down the docks. He does a big front flip, lands on a sort of a pile of boxes, and he does it again, jumps off and lands in a pile of boxes, and he rolls out of view. And then Sean Connery pops up. So obviously the stuff landed before, and then within the same shot, Sean Connery pops up. I thought that was a really cool little, classic practical Hollywood trick.
Yeah, and I think that was really my issue when I saw it recently. Was like kind of felt like that part of the movie where he was like marrying the girl and stuff. I thought that was kind of hokey, and I don't know. I didn't really care for it as much anymore. but everything else is great, and I love the ending. And I can't. And then I realized who wrote the screenplay.
Yeah, I was
Um,
surprised.
um, Mr. Charlie and Chocolate Factory himself, um, Roald Dahl. Isn't that how you pronounce his name?
Roald Dahl.
Roald Dahl. And
Yeah.
I read a quote. He said that the reason why he wanted to write the screenplay is because he wanted to make a good movie out of a poor book. And yeah, and I always thought that was kind of interesting. I read that, like, if you go on Internet Movie or IMDb, you can look in the trivia, and there's like little trivia that says that he said that. So
Yeah.
I guess Ian Fleming was dead by this point, so he didn't really offend anybody.
Yeah, when I saw the credits and it said written by Roald Dahl, I thought, no, it can't be. Surely not.
Yes, it is, and my name's not Shirley. So
I was really hoping for a cameo from Toshiro Mifune, one of my all-time favorite actors, because he was in Seven Samurai, loads of Akira Kurosawa films, and this is around the period where he was like one of the biggest stars in Japan. I thought it would have been a perfect opportunity for him to be in this, and I was like, oh, why didn't they do it? I would have just like died if that happened.
he could have been like Blofeld's like bodyguard.
Yeah, oh, it'd be awesome. Yeah,
because
I really enjoyed this. I don't think it's anywhere near one of the best films, but I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, and I guess it's where like the Bond films started getting really kind of outlandish in certain aspects of like the science fiction part of it. With
Definitely.
but it was still fun. It didn't get cheesy, but it was still fun. And so the next film, Connery actually stopped. He quit playing Bond, and they made On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which we'll talk about in the next video. But we're skipping over that, and we're going to Connery's last Bond film in the official Bond franchise, and that is Diamonds Are Forever, Are Forever, Are Forever, Are Forever. Because that's what it says on the title sequence. I always like this film. He goes to Las Vegas to go up against Blofeld again. Blofeld's going to use these diamonds for satellite laser and stuff, and I don't know. It was to me this turned into more of a Bond comedy, but it was it was still good. It was funny, and this is where Connery really started to show his age, and
Yeah.
I think unlike any other Bond, he's one that started showing his age with each film. Like, he looks different. Maybe some of it is because of his toupee, because he was actually bald the entire time he played Bond, and he wore toupee starting
Yeah.
with Doctor No, and so maybe they just didn't get the exact toupee each time. And but who is it? Jill St. John plays Tiffany Case. Charles Gray plays Blofeld. Um, you know, Jimmy Dean, the Sausage King, is in this, which is really funny. Um, uh,
And there's those two weird guys like the henchmen.
yeah, because they had a really funny relationship, and they brought they were mean, but then they were kind of crazy at the same, or they were mean and crazy, but then they were kind of proper, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I really, really like this film. What are your opinions of it?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It took a while to get into because it was such a shock because Connery looks like he's aged 10 years, not, 4 years or whatever the gap was. He looked a lot older. And he gets his ass kicked in this film. Like, seriously, there's a scene where these two girls just beat the crap out of him. I love the Vegas setting. I thought that was really cool. Something I want to mention as well. One of my favorite bits of the film is when Jill St. John's character, she's down in the kind of casino, and Q's there with a little device, and he's just winning money from all the machines. And I just love that scene with Q, and I think Desmond Llewellyn, who plays Q, is one of my favorite things about the whole Bond series, and I love that he was in it so early. He started with From Russia with Love, and he's in almost all of them. And yeah, I just love that little scene with him. One of my favorites.
Yeah, he was just awesome. Like throughout the entire series, and we could like make a whole video talking about him just because he was so awesome in each movie. and it was really a loss when he eventually passed away in real life, and they had to switch his role.
Yeah.
But
Well, what I liked was that most of the time that you see him, he's just kind of reprimanding James Bond and stuff, and but now it's cool to see him have a bit of fun every now and again, like he did with that scene. And yeah, overall, I enjoyed it a lot. I didn't like the fact that we have a different actor as Blofeld. I just felt like I'd be more attached to the film if it was the same actor, but it's changed all the time. So even with Her Majesty's Secret Service, which we'll get onto, but yeah, I enjoyed it. I liked the setting. It was cool.
all right, everybody. Well, I hope you're enjoying this series so far. This is our it's the second episode in this series, but really it's the first one in this new format. So I hope you guys like this one. We'll be back in the next episode with the George Lazenby film on Her Majesty's Secret Service, and then we'll continue with Roger Moore and so on and so forth. And until next time, I'll see you later. Thanks, Lou, for being on the show.
Cheers, man.
All right, everybody. Have a great day.